Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this recorded sermon coming to you live from Mount Vernon Presbyterian Church in Alexandria, Virginia. My name is Bob Malone, and I'm the pastor of this congregation. On behalf of our entire leadership team, our entire congregation, welcome. We hope you encounter God in important and meaningful ways this morning. Giving you a heads up, over the next couple of weeks, there will be no live recorded sermon for the next 3 Sundays. We won't resume recording these until the first Sunday in Advent. So I would encourage you to go get your, what are we up to now, your 3rd booster, and then think of joining us here in person or finding a congregation wherever you might be so that you might worship there in person and truly experience the power and the presence of God's beloved community. As always, if you're interested in finding out more about our congregation, you can scan the QR code that is found right here in our Facebook news feed. That will take you to a variety of links. And as always, you can go to our website and find much more information there. But for now, I invite you to get comfortable wherever you are watching. Take a couple of deep, cleansing breaths. Try to quiet the noisy voices of this past week. And once again, on this Sabbath morning, become attentive to that still, small voice within you. Our first scripture reading today comes to us from the book of Hebrews, chapter 12. Listen, as always, for what the Spirit is saying to you this morning. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and the sin that clings so closely. And let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith, who for the sake of the joy that was set before him endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such hostility against himself from sinners, so that you may not grow weary in your souls, or lose heart in your struggles against sin, the ones you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. Therefore lift your drooping heads, and strengthen your weak knees. Make straight the paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. Church, this is the word of the Lord and the poetry of the faithful. Thanks be to God. So I have 2 final memes this morning as I wrap up this Memes That Matter sermon series. The second one really does matter. I'm still not quite sure about the first one. You can find these memes also if you scan the QR code. That first one that I'm not too sure about, it reads, if at first you don't succeed, try doing what your Danish wife told you to do the first time. In addition to today being Trunk or Treat Sunday, it's also Reformation Sunday. Tuesday is All Saints' Day. And in 3 weeks, we will celebrate the Reign of Christ Sunday. In 4 weeks, it is the first Sunday in Advent, Election Day will finally be here next Tuesday. And in the process of moving through all of these significant days, we have the craziness of the holidays, which are just around the corner. These are indeed busy days. But this morning, I'm going to pass on all of that and instead stick to this first scripture reading, one of my favorite memes that I will share with you shortly. And I want to focus on a beautiful music video. We are going to be watching it here when we're together. You can easily Google it and find it for yourself. It is a Naomi Scott music video of the song Speechless. It's a song that every young girl, every young child really needs to hear. Some of the lyrics go like this. Here comes a wave meant to wash me away, a tide that is taking me under, swallowing sand left with nothing to say, my voice drowned out in the thunder. Written in stone, every rule, every word, centuries old and unbending, stay in your place, better seen and not heard. Well, now that story is ending. Because I cannot start to crumble. So come on and try. Try to shut me and cut me down, but I won't be silenced. You can't keep me quiet. I won't tremble when you try it, and I won't go speechless. Let the storm in. I cannot be broken. No, I won't live unspoken, because I know that I won't go speechless. Hear the echo saying, I won't be silenced. Though you want to see me tremble when you try it, all I know is I won't go speechless. In our first reading this morning from the Gospel of John, we read about God setting up home within us. God, Jesus, the Spirit, this triune deity that is so central to our lives, lives in us. So no, none of us should ever go speechless. For the presence of God in our lives should have profound implications on the way we live. Sometimes I am speechless when I look at all that is going on in our world today. The Russian invasion of a sovereign nation is something the world perhaps wouldn't have been surprised at in the mid-20th century, but today? Really? Have we learned nothing from history? A nation's inability to deal with drought or famine. Really? In 2022? A riot at our capital. A pandemic that has killed millions and brought the world to its knees. A church that has lost its mooring to the way of Jesus. Really? Is that where we are today? I know that the world always had and always will have its issues. But these things are simply not normal. And they should not be. So none of us should remain speechless. We need everyone to be involved in solving the issues facing our world. Everyone. No one dare sit on the sidelines. And we dare not push anyone to the sidelines. Because on earth as it is in heaven, that phrase that we so often say in the Lord's Prayer, that's huge. And it's going to require every voice to speak up and to speak out. No one should be seen but not heard. The text from John that we will read later this morning tells us that the Spirit has made her home in us. And that means that we all have something to say. No speechlessness allowed. Not the young, not the old, not a girl or a woman, not a man or a boy, not one who is gay, not one who is black, nor brown, nor any other color for that matter, not one who is Jewish, nor Muslim, nor Christian. If we truly love God, then we will obey the ways of God, and it will be as though the teachings of Jesus truly are written on our hearts. So we dare not be silent, because what God has to say through us is desperately needed by our broken world. Now, John isn't the only one who knows this. The author of the Hebrew passage that I just read for us, our second reading today, there we're called to continue to press on in this manner. The author calls us to run the race that is set before us with perseverance, never growing weary, never losing heart. We're called to lift our drooping heads, to strengthen our weak knees. For while the work may be hard, while the work may be long and arduous, while opposition and resistance might at times seem to prevail, the resurrection story that is central to our faith means that in the end, God always wins. So we can never give up. In Delia Owens' Where the Crawdads Sing, there is an amazing scene when Mabel, a black businesswoman, is wanting to help the lead character, Kaya, because the townspeople are behaving so badly towards her. But Mabel's husband is concerned about her getting involved, out of fear for what might happen to them. And so he tells her to be careful. The woman's response to her husband is beautiful. Be careful? Jesus tells us, when you do it unto the least of these, you do it unto me. Ain't no message about being careful. It's a beautiful portion of the story. You have to love that kind of passion. There's no doubt the work before us is hard, but it's how we're called to live. Just look at the life of Jesus. How he was always willing to serve others, not on the basis of whether or not they deserved it, but simply because they are part of God's creation and members of the great human family. Consider how he was never afraid to challenge the status quo, or those in power when their ways violated the laws of God and oppressed and marginalized others. Just consider how he was never afraid to love the unlovable, to touch the untouchable, how he was not afraid to embrace those outside of his tribe, the Gentile, the foreigner, the stranger, the alien, the immigrant. That, friends, is how we are called to live. because it's how Jesus lived, with no regrets, giving it his all every day. But, having said all of that, that is not the message I want to leave you with this morning. This is not meant to be a service sermon. Because the Spirit within, calling us to live a life fully, it's not just about working for a better world. That's definitely part of it. We all know that. But following Jesus and living mindful that God really does dwell within us, that's also about learning to fly. It's about loving life. And in the words of Roland Marullo in his book, Breakfast with Buddha, it's about learning how to squeeze all the juice out of life that there is to squeeze. And sometimes I'm just not sure we relegate this line of thinking to people of faith. And that is what takes us to our final me in this series. My favorite of all. Atticus was an anonymous Canadian poet who began sharing online his work back in 2013. And these words are profoundly important. She was afraid of heights, but she was much more afraid of never flying. She was afraid of heights, but she was much more afraid of never flying. Church, are you flying? Are you living your life to the fullest? Or are your fears keeping you grounded? Last week, Shan and I went back to Williamsburg for the 20th anniversary of the chartering of the church that we started back in 2000. And it was an absolutely wonderful event for all kinds of reasons. The least of which was not because of how hard we worked in those days. We did work hard and long, and the job was full of all kinds of risks. As many of you know I've shared this story before. We left a church of 1,200 members in Erie, PA, with a facility and a staff and a team of volunteers that was unlike anything I could have ever imagined. But after 8 years there, we knew that the Spirit that had made her home in our hearts was calling us to something more. To something riskier, yes, but to something that would be so much better. I had all kinds of fears, primarily of failure. And my poor wife, who, as you know, controls the purse strings in our home, she had all kinds of financial fears. But she too we both knew that God had something more for us. And as challenging as it was today, we can't imagine what our lives would have been like had we said no to this calling to fly. How is Mount Vernon being called to fly? Today. 3 years ago, we were positioned well to take off. Do you remember what life was like here before the pandemic? Trunk or Treat had over 20 trunks. Worship was well over 100. The nursery was full. The choir was singing every week. And Mary was rocking us on her guitar. We were preparing to take 10 couples off to a marriage retreat. We had just completed the renovation of this beautiful worship space. Our annual giving had begun climbing again, was well up over 340K. We were ready to take off. And then on Friday, March 13th, 2020, everything shut down. And we have not been the same since. But 2.5 years later, things are getting back on track again. The world has changed, yes, but we have never faltered in trying to keep up with those changes. Our session and our staff continue to try to listen for what the Spirit is saying, promptings about what we need to do, how we need to do it, where we need to go. So what risks are we as a congregation being called to take these days so that we might fly, so that we might better be about God's work in this world? Through Agape, through New Hope Housing, at Holland Meadows Elementary School and Monlock House, with Faith Presbyterian Church, with National Capital Presbytery, and all around the world. How is God calling us to be the church in this new day? How are we being led by the Spirit to fly? What new ministries or projects are we going to launch? How is this new kitchenette and the parlor going to impact what happens here on Sunday mornings? The hospitality that we share with others. Is there a picnic pavilion in our future to bring more people onto our campus? And what about the future of our music program, of our youth program, of our children's ministry? I know thinking about that causes many to fear. But the fear of staying where we are, of staying right here on the ground, just keeping on doing the same things we've been doing, the same way. Friends, that should cause even more fear. But beyond our church, one last challenge this morning. How are you personally, being called to fly? Are you paying attention to the Spirit's movement in your life? Are you listening to that still small voice within you? You know the one. It's the one that far too often is telling you things you perhaps do not want to hear. You can find a new job. You're not meant to be this unhappy. You can stop with the bad behavior. So find a therapist, someone who will hold you accountable. You can find more joy in your life, but you need to get off the couch and you need to get out into the world. British businessman Stephen Bartlett has said that contrary to popular opinion, sometimes quitting is for winners. He writes, knowing when to change directions, leave a toxic situation, demand more from your life, give up on something that isn't working and move on. He says that knowing those things is an important skill that people who are winning in life seem to have. So how are you facing whatever fears are holding you back? Whatever fears in your life are keeping you from deepening that relationship, dealing with that addiction, experiencing all that you want to experience in whatever years you have left. Friends, life is meant to be lived. It's meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be loved. So work hard for the sake of Jesus by all means, but don't ever let your fears keep you from flying. Run the race that has been set before you. Lift your drooping heads and strengthen your weak knees. Don't worry. Don't be silenced. Make a difference and fly. Let me close this morning with the words of Czech poet Rainer Maria Rilke from his Book of Hours. Listen. God speaks to each of us as we are made, then walks with us silently out of the night. These are the words we dimly hear. You, sent out beyond your recall, go to the limits of your longing. Embody me. Flare up like a flame and make big shadows I can move in. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. Give me your hand. Friends, keep going for the sake of Jesus. Fly. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy this glorious time of year, and I will see you right back here at the end of November on the very first Sunday of Advent.